Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, and today I've got a very, very familiar guest who's been on the show before and who I love to speak to. Her name is Lori Carpenos, and she is a marriage and family relationship coach. Welcome again, Lori.
Oh, thank you, Lyn. Thanks so much. I love how you call yourself Queen of Hearts.
Thank you. Yes, and I hope that I exude that as well. You know, I really do my best to exude a very caring, understanding and wanting to serve women attitude. So, yeah, I hope I carry that well. Okay, so today, Lori and I had a little chat off air and we thought what would be good would be talking about how misunderstandings can occur in our relationships, because there seems to be a really common theme that crops up time and time again. So Lori, just tell the listeners, for those that have not had the benefit of hearing about you before, a little bit about yourself before we get into that topic.
Sure. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in New England, in Connecticut. And I know you're in Great Britain, right, Lyn? You're in the UK, I believe.
Yeah, I'm actually from the UK, but actually live in Spain.
Oh, okay. Now, yes. And you still have your accent. And I still have my New York accent, I think.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so I've been in practice since, I'm an old timer, since 1985. I started out in Florida after a training with the late Sydney Banks. So I had all my prerequisites and I got my license based on my education, but then realized that there was something that wasn't sitting right with the way I was trained. And then I heard one lecture by Sid Banks back in 1984, probably. And I realized, wow, this is what has been missing really in the field of psychology, which is a spiritual component. Mm. And when you look at the history of psychology, that's really how it began. It was really thought of as how the psyche takes what we now call formless energy. You know, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, but you know that we're powered by some force, some energy. And that energy comes into the world of form through our ability to create thought, to create a human experience through the power of thought and the power of consciousness. So we're conscious of what we think. Then that's what makes everything we think look like absolute reality. That just blew my mind when I heard, you know, Sid had his wonderful words to explain that. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, to the point where I didn't even realize how depressed I had been in my 20s, you know, that because my world shifted, my total experience of life shifted as I began to look back inside myself, that I'm the creator of my experience. I'm feeling what I think. I'm not feeling the outside world. I'm not feeling other people's thoughts. I'm feeling my own thoughts, and that's the human experience. So, you know, at that point, I had to leave my profession as an art teacher in a junior high school, or I thought I had to leave it, in order to share what I was learning from Sid and from other students of Sid's. And so I went into the field of marriage and family therapy. And that's how that evolved. So long story to your simple question, Lyn, but
no, it's a very valuable story, because I'm sure there are some listeners that maybe have not heard the previous episode and know a little bit about your background. So thank you for sharing that, and the insights about and awareness around what you learned, having been a student and studying under Sid Banks, because, it is very valuable information that we're not taught in formal education, is it?
Mm-hmm. Not taught, you said, in
formal education.
Formal education. Well, it's starting to be. It is. It's starting to be. So that's very exciting, because it truly is a paradigm shift for the field, and a wonderful shift. People are seeing the ramifications for world peace, literally. We have enough people in the world recognizing that they are the ones creating their experience. There's a shift as a result of this. And that's what allows people to have greater understanding, not just for one another. And that's the topic we're going to be speaking about. Not just for one another, but for cultures, to be able to sit down and really understand the cultural thinking a group of people have. Then you can see how to negotiate better and how to share your experience of how it looks different to you.
It's very empowering, but also it's a huge responsibility, isn't it? When you think about, what power you've got over how your life looks.
Yeah. It becomes more and more of a no-brainer, Lyn. When the more I saw this, and believe me, this is 30 some odd years into what I learned from Sid Banks, and his other, even though he's passed, his other students like myself are putting out podcasts and webinars, and so I love listening to them, because I have insights when I listen to my colleagues. And that's the point of this, that people don't listen just to the words and the explanation and try to understand it intellectually. This is a process of insight where people will hear us speaking or, writing, whatever form we're putting it out in. And instead of interpreting what we're saying, a lot of people will say, oh, this sounds like Zen or Buddhism or this or that, but they're missing the point if they want to compare and contrast it. What you're looking for, and this is for our listeners, what you're looking for is your own insight. So just let what I have to say kind of wash over you. And, Sid would actually say, don't listen to my words. And I thought, what are you talking about? Don't listen to my words. But I came to see what he meant. It's not, because there's so many interpretations for, say, the word spiritual. That could have a negative connotation. And there we go with the whole theme of misunderstanding, right?
Yeah.
So you want to see what is true and useful and right for you, how you see the world.
It's not about sharing information, because, we can all share information and the thing is that the knowledge in itself isn't effective unless we implement it. So what we're actually sharing is not actual information. It's actually a transformative experience, isn't it?
Well, I have to say from my own experience, personally and professionally, seeing people in front of me change, that's so true, that it is a transformative experience that happens on its own. It's not a matter of willing it or trying to make it happen. it actually happens on its own, because as I understand it, and this is just my words to explain how I understand it, it's as though I rose in in levels of consciousness, to a higher level of consciousness, which isn't to say that I'm better than anybody else. We are all literally, and that's also what I came to see about the three principles, mind, thought, and consciousness, that Sid Banks spoke to. We literally are all the same, and I don't have anything that anybody else can't have for themselves. It's a matter of looking within. Look within yourself, how you're creating your experience.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree. So what we're going to discuss today, Lori, is something that you brought up that would be a fascinating topic for our audience to listen to, and that is understanding how you misunderstood. Because, in relationships, it's quite common, isn't it, that we experience as coaches and trainers and therapists, how this misunderstanding, especially between the sexes, occurs as a regular theme.
Oh, yes. I know. I love this topic, Lynn. We tossed around a few possibilities, but this one just, was like a neon sign, something that I really want to share with people because it's so prevalent. Oh my goodness. It is probably, I would say, really the culprit in relationships. It's the enemy of relationships. How people get this experience of life that looks real to them. And so they're innocent. They don't realize that their experience is not the same experience as their partner or anyone they're relating to, their boss, their children, their parents, their friends, you name it. These misunderstandings are common only when people don't take the time to really understand what the other person is trying to get across. And so one of the things I love doing in retreats and seminars, and sometimes in my private practice, is, well, as often as possible, I should say, is teaching people how to listen with nothing on their mind, no agenda, no, as soon as this other person is finished talking, I'm going to have a moment to get in the way I see it. No, you want to take a moment to really understand. You don't have to agree with what the other person is saying, but you want to take the time to really understand where they're coming from. And, I could give you a couple of examples how this goes, but, I just want to do that before time is up. We have time. So at the right time, I can show you how this plays out. Let me know.
Yeah, certainly go right ahead, Lori, because I'm sure I'll be able to add as well to the examples that you share, because it is a crucial topic, like you say, and there's a reason why we've got two ears and one mouth, isn't there?
Right. We've heard that. Yeah. And, before I jump into these examples, I just want to say that misunderstanding runs so much deeper than the he said, she said that goes on, between couples. And years later, when somebody will say, oh my gosh, you meant that 5 years ago when you were talking about XYZ, when you said ABC, that's what you meant? That happens quite often too. So it runs so much deeper. It runs really to the soul, because the true nature of the human experience is thought and consciousness. Every person is conscious of what they themselves think. And I'm going to get into that a little deeper, but I just wanted to put that out there before I give you a couple of examples to explain what I mean. So let's see, which one would I love giving current examples because it's like every day that I'm seeing clients, the misunderstanding aspect will pop up. It's not like I'm even looking for it. It's just right there. It's so runs so rampant and it's so prevalent that it's just right there. So here's one example. So I'm seeing this husband who had filed for divorce, and his wife was served, and he started to have a wee bit of a second thought about this. It's not my job to convince somebody to hold off on their divorce proceeding, but just in talking about how our experience is coming from us, not the other person.
Yes.
I kind of, it's like ding, ding, ding. He started to look inside himself at how he was contributing to the problems he was experiencing, which is really 100%.
Yeah.
When you see how thought works, it's 100%. It's always on us. Not that, we don't want to blame ourselves either. We want to see humanity. Human beings are innocent to their own thinking because they're living in the pea soup of their own thinking.
Yes.
They're living in it. That's their life. But when you can realize that that's what's happening, you start taking your own thinking a little less seriously. And boy, that opens people up like you would not believe. So we're going to go back to this fellow here. So he served her papers. He starts to realize, wait a minute, this is my third wife. And all the other relationships, besides the two other women I divorced, I was always the first one out. I was always the first one to leave. First time he recognized, I think he's in his 40s. First time he recognized that there's a pattern here.
Yeah, the common denominator being himself.
Yeah, isn't that, it's so interesting when we have something in our blind spot and then something pulls it out. Some realization, some insight will bring that blind spot into the light of day, if you will. So he starts to look a little deeper and he says, what really gets to me with my wife, and by the way, he did put the divorce on hold till he could explore this a little further. So he says, what really gets to me is when she doubts me. How dare she doubt me? I have built a successful business and so many people in my community, everybody respects me. They know. The reason is because they know I'm a man of my word. I don't say things unless I know it to be true. But she'll doubt me. No matter what, she'll say, are you sure that's true? Well, come to find out, as he got curious about this, and that's my point too, is getting curious about why the other person would think what they think when that's not you. What are they thinking? So instead of taking offense, he got curious. And you know what he found out, Lynn?
What?
This is a kicker. He found out she had been through a series of marriages and relationships as well. And the thing that always broke them up was that he had lied to her. So she had that in her experience that I can't trust men to tell the truth. They all lie, even though it's not true. It just happened to be her experiences with these particular men. And who knows, it was how she was seeing it. So in her mind, she has to protect herself and be on the alert for any possible lie. So it's like we see what we look for. Whatever we're looking for, that's what we're going to see. Isn't that something?
It is, we always get what we focus on, even if it's something we don't want, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I never bring people into the past we just know that our past experiences are going to have an effect on us only to the degree of how we think about it now. You take two people, they could be twins, they grew up in the same household and on and on, had the same teachers, and still they're so different because they've interpreted their experiences differently. And so they see the world through their personal thinking.
I had a story around that, actually, where there was twin men who had grown up and they were identical, obviously with the same parents and you'd think similar experiences, but their father was an alcoholic who was in and out of prison a lot. And one of the twins, he grew up to be an alcoholic and he was in and out of prison a lot. And the other twin grew up to be a really successful entrepreneur. And they were both asked the question, why did you turn out the way you did? And they both said, because of my father.
Yeah,
so one chose to repeat the pattern and the other one chose not to.
Right. It was their thinking, their personal decision that they didn't even realize they were making. Right?
Yeah.
Didn't even realize it because they were just living in the pea soup of their own experience. Like one was saying, oh my God, my father, I'm not going to do that. The other one was saying, well, it runs in the family, so of course I'm doing that.
Exactly.
And they believe whatever they think, hook, line, and sinker. Talk about, misunderstanding ourselves even. That whatever we think is going to look like absolute truth.
Well, there's this saying that Henry Ford came out with, isn't there, that whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, because there you go. We experience our own thinking. It's so interesting that we've had all these sayings through the years, and the wise people of the ages have really said the same thing. But I'll tell you, and this is for our listeners, I would look into Sid Banks because it was the first time that I really got what the wise people of the ages were trying to say. I would dabble in reading this or that, or I was kind of sort of interested in spirituality, and it never hit me. And, I'm not saying that it will hit everyone. Of course it won't hit everyone the way it hit me. It can't possibly. But everybody has their own experience. But I really recommend that people just Google Sydney Banks and see what you find.
I would second that.
Books are wonderful.
Yeah, I would second that. Yeah, it's really so interesting. And actually, there's nothing new out there. This has all been passed down, hasn't it, through the generations. It's just got lost somewhere along the way.
Yes, right. Well, because they were just sayings to us. It's like a Pinterest, don't believe everything you think, or, it's like just a saying. But when you understand how it literally works, mind, thought, and consciousness are working together to give us this true to life experience, this human experience moment to moment. Wow, that sheds light. Then that makes that Pinterest statement come to life. Like, oh, okay, I get that on a much deeper level. Don't believe everything you think. That makes total sense to me now. Yeah.
Definitely does make total sense to me too. So the other thing that come to mind as we've been talking about this subject of misunderstanding is that I see a lot of clients create misunderstanding by having expectations, And I think, expectations is another thing that causes a lot of misunderstanding because, we're quite often in any sort of relationship, romantic or otherwise, having expectations about how we, expect that other person to behave, to speak, to communicate. And when they don't live up to that, then we make judgments about that, don't we?
Absolutely. Judgments. Yes, absolutely. And that would be another whole podcast about judgments.
We'll do it another
They
time.
are interrelated, the misunderstanding, because we're so busy judging the other person in a negative fashion that we could miss a lot of what's wonderful and beautiful about the other person. And, recognizing that it's just us thinking, creating this experience of judgment doesn't mean it's accurate or helpful. And sometimes, it could be helpful, but that's where our wisdom comes into play. Like, let's say you are with somebody who's doing something unhealthy, they're drinking too much, they're smoking too many cigarettes or what have you. And, of course, if you have a judgment about that, it could be healthy for them to find a loving way to point out, I don't know if you realize that this XYZ could be causing you physical difficulty. But the state of mind we're in when we point something out to the other person is so important, so important. I hear so often, he has an attitude or she has an attitude, like people are already worked up and judging negatively some behavior. So when they point it out to the other person, it comes off as criticism. Mm. And what do people do when they feel criticized? They back up, or they'll even do that thing more just to dig their heels in and say, well, the heck with you. Which actually brings me to another story I'll tell you about in a minute. It's so funny. But yeah, so that's the thing we also have to really monitor is our state of mind. Like, where are we coming from? Love and understanding, or are we coming from anger and judgment and
fear?
Yeah. So here's this other story. This is a great lead-in. To my couples, I always recommend a couple of books. I recommend The Relationship Handbook by George Pransky. And, no surprise, I recommend The Secret of Love, Unlock the Mystery. And so this couple comes. He got a hold of The Secret of Love, Unlock the Mystery, Unleash the Magic, and he wanted her to read it in the worst way. Well, guess what? She said, nope, I'm not reading that. So how do you think he interprets that? He interprets that to mean that she doesn't care about the relationship. She's not going to do anything to improve the relationship. So he gets this attitude like, what a nerve. If she's not going to do anything, I'm certainly not either. I'm not, so they both are like 9 toes out of the relationship apiece. And come to find out, because I explored it with her a little further when I had the two of them in front of me, she said no, because in her mind, it was just another thing he was telling her she had to do to save the relationship. Like in her mind, it was, whoop, I gotta check that box now. Isn't that interesting?
So she felt as though she was being coerced or controlled in some way,
right.
By
that
her suggestion.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
And his interpretation was she could care less. And neither interpretation was accurate.
No.
But isn't it interesting that one doesn't really try to explore it anymore? Like, wow, that's so curious. how come? I mean, I see you reading other books. It's not that you don't like reading. I'm just so curious. How come you don't want to? Well, then, don't you think she would say, well, it's because it's another box for me to check off.
Mm.
And then they have a conversation where they're really sharing how they see things. And if people don't blame the other person for seeing it the way they're seeing it, we can't help the way we see things. It's not like we are planting thought seeds in our head trying to aggravate the other person. We can't help it. We get what we get, but to be able to step back and have a look and say, wow, I guess that wasn't as accurate as I thought it was.
It's so true, because I can relate to this as well, you know, because one of my earlier professions when I was a very young woman at the age of 19 was I was a policewoman, and quite often, obviously, within that role, I was taking a lot of witness statements, and even, you know, when people were viewing the same accident or whatever it was they were witness to, the different perspectives, you wouldn't think sometimes that they viewed the same thing.
Yeah. Yes, isn't that interesting? Absolutely.
You know, they'd view the same car and it'd be a different color or a different make, or, you know, a perpetrator would be, you know, described this way and another person would describe him that way. And you think, did they see the same person?
Exactly. It's so interesting. Perception. You know, it's all perception. If you have four people standing on four different corners where an accident happened in that intersection, they'd have different renditions of what happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this was introduced to me as an early age, you know, how we all have these perceptions of you know, and our own take on things as to what we're seeing and how we're placing different meanings on what we're seeing. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's a, yeah, absolutely. The funny thing is, you mention it, when I was in the middle of editing with Christine, The Secret of Love, this story came to my mind, and it was so weird because it just popped into my head. It was a story about two young girls. It wound up being a little book called The Inside Out World, or It's an Inside Out World. These two young, like preteens, they were talking together about something they heard from their substitute teacher, all about this, that life is not the way it seems, you know, basically. And so they run this experiment, and one gets upset because they get bullied or teased. It was more being teased on a school bus. And she says, well, wait a minute. So they're doing this like this lab of life, and they get on the phone together in the evening and they realize, hey, there's another way to look at this. Maybe she was being teased because the boy actually was interested in her. That could be too, you know, instead of taking offense. So there's so many different ways to see something. So that's funny that you brought that up.
Most definitely. Yeah, and I can relate to that as well. You know, certainly in my history, I've been teased by boys at school, and I've definitely realised later on probably it was due to the fact that they did have that spark of attraction rather than, you know, wanting to make my life a misery.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, you know, I've got one other story. So I want to make sure I share this one. And this story is about, let me see. Oh, maybe I'll give two names here. Let's say Sally and Bob. We'll say that, right?
Okay.
So Sally and Bob they went through 6 months. One says 6 months of difficulty. The other one says 10 years of difficulty. That's talk about a different viewpoint, right? So what happens is Bob was trying to make his wife happy. Good intentions, but it doesn't work that way, right? Happiness, we know now, happiness truly does come from within us. It comes from our own thinking. If we're having happy thoughts, we're feeling happy. Not that we can make ourselves have happy thoughts. We just know that that's how it works. So he's going overboard, trying to make her happy against his better judgment. She wants a bigger house. He agrees to it, even though he knows, oh boy, this means I'm going to have to work even harder. It's going to cause more stress. We'll have less time to go on dates. And this is his thinking. I don't know how much of that he actually shared with her before they decided to go with the bigger house. And other things too, like, she wanted another child. He agreed against his better judgment. But, all of that worked out. And on and on. The list goes on and on. How he's bending over backwards to try to make his wife happy. And guess what? He never found out she didn't even know right away what it was that she was searching for. It wasn't in a bigger house. It wasn't in another child. It wasn't in any of the things that people attempt to do or attempt to create in order to feel happy. It was, for her, something that was missing. She was looking for more affection, more time together. And of course, he's trying to please her in that way, making her happy by going overboard and stressing himself out. Do you think he's got any time or inclination to be affectionate? He's just nose to the grindstone, trying to bring in as much money as he can and do as much as he can. And total misunderstanding between the two of them. It just strikes me, it's so interesting how prevalent that is. And when you go deeper to, again, the true nature of the human experience being thought and consciousness, you realize that there's no one to blame. Everybody's innocent to their own thinking. They're just responding or reacting to their own thinking. But we have, and this is really, really so amazing, we have a built-in compass, a built-in, what's the word I'm looking for? Like navigational system. It's a built-in neon sign, really, it's like having a neon sign that will light up and say, whoa, you're on the wrong course here. Your thinking is leading you astray. And that signal is our feelings.
Yes.
Anytime, literally anytime anybody is feeling irritated, annoyed, bothered, look within. It's your own thinking causing that. But it appears as though it's what that person is doing. That person is snoring or they're coughing too much, or they're, second guessing me, or they're stressing themselves out and not taking time to be with me, or they don't want to be with me, so they must not like me, or, all of those thoughts look to the thinker like it's absolutely true. They know what's happening because they're looking at what's happening. But no, you got to turn your eyeballs inside out. You got to look the other way inside your own head. I mean, that's where human experience is getting created, 2 square inches inside our head,
Absolutely. And it is literally, taking notice and becoming more aware of when your feelings are giving you that warning, if you like,
yes.
that neon sign that you spoke about, and then taking that to mean, this is the signal to ask myself an empowering question. What do I need to learn from this situation, or whatever that question might be?
Yeah, it's a direct feedback system. We are designed so incredibly, really, right? That we feel our own thinking. That is, oh my gosh, the intelligence of universal energy.
Yeah.
It's the same intelligence that is operating the natural world. We're part of the natural world. And to discover that we feel our own thinking, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. That's like discovering how to make fire for humanity,
Definitely. Well, on that note, Lori, I could really, be in conversation with you all day. You're such a wise woman with such a lot of great stories and insights and great information to share. And I'm sure we'll be having you on again. But unfortunately, time's run away with us now for this episode. So I just want to take this opportunity for saying thank you so much for coming on and being such an open, wise book of insights.
Well, thank you, Lyn. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I enjoy talking with you.
And on that basis, Lori, could you just share what would be a great method of contact for the listeners to be able to get in touch with you? And I'll include all the rest in our show notes as usual.
Sure. My Gmail is probably the best way. It's my first name, Lori, at the number 3, Principles Therapy, and Principles is plural, spelled PLES, 3principlestherapy.com. Oh, I said it's a Gmail. Actually, I also have a Gmail, but they both go to the same place, Lori at 3principlestherapy.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Lori. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure our listeners have got absolutely loads and loads and loads of great gems from this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Lyn. Yeah, you take care now. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And I'll just wrap up by saying, you know what? True love starts with opening our hearts. So get out of our heads and more into our hearts, and let's share the love. Goodbye for now. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group 2 Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.